Mortgage rates slipped under 6. In Florida, the market flinched and then started to move. Here is the turn. On February 26th, the average 30-year mortgage rate fell to 5.98%, the first dip below 6 since September 2022. 2 years earlier, buyers had watched the number climb to 7.76% in November 2023. Before that, in the fever of January 2021, it had sunk to an all-time low of 2.65%. Across that arc, 2.65 to 7.76 to 5.98, affordability first roared, then vanished, and now, suddenly, begins to breathe again. Affordability is not a theory. It is a monthly payment. On a $400,000, 30-year fixed loan with 20% down, the monthly payment at 7.76% runs $3,008.06. At 5.58%, it drops to $2,546.35. That near $460 swing lands directly in the kitchen, in the calendar, in the question of whether the first child's room will have a window that faces east. Florida's agents are seeing it translate into action. In January, statewide, 16,298 existing single-family homes closed, a 5.9% rise from 15,384 a year earlier. Pending contracts, deals inked but not yet closed, jumped to 24,666, up 15.2% from 21,411 in January 2025. Prices tell their own kind of story. The statewide median sale price for single-family homes in January read $405,000, down 1.2% from $410,000 a year earlier. Beneath that median number, the heart of the action concentrated where first-time buyers most often shop. Homes priced between $300,000 and $399,000 tallied 4,143 closings, up 3.3% year over year. The bracket just below, from $200,000 to $299,999, logged 2,913 closings, surging 19.1% year over year. The oxygen in those brackets is borrower confidence. Confidence that a monthly payment pencils, that the rate won't jump between offer and closing, that taxes and insurance are accounted for in real life, not just on a pre-approval letter. You can see this confidence surfacing in specific places. In Escambia County, on the Panhandle, the local board counted 493 pending sales as of February 27th. A year earlier, at the same point, it had just 220. In Broward County, the conversation has shifted from wishing for 2 to 4% mortgages to learning to live with a rate that starts with a 5 or a 6. A predictable, stable range is giving buyers permission to plan. Not everyone finances. In Florida's $1 million plus price tier, cash buyers often prefer higher mortgage rates. Fewer financed bidders mean less competition. But in the ranges that set the pulse, the dip under 6 has turned fence sitters into active tours and offers. The swing in rates is the spark. The tinder is inventory and pricing discipline. By the end of last year, Florida closed out with 47% more sellers on the market than buyers, the widest gap since this imbalance began being tracked in 2013. That is an astonishing asymmetry. It means a buyer pulling up to a Saturday open house is one of a smaller pack than the list of addresses suggests. An imbalance like that puts a target on list prices and days on market. It fuels the hard truths sellers are hearing in living rooms across the state. Price right from the start, or chase the market down. Nowhere is this recalibration more raw than in Southwest Florida. Lee County sits at the center of a projected softening. One prominent forecast singled it out as the only metropolitan area anticipating a double-digit annual price drop pegged at 10.2%, with the Sarasota metro expected to slide 8.9%. The mechanism is straightforward. Outsized pandemic-era gains, more new product now hitting the market, and a cooling urgency from buyers who see more choices and feel less heat. In this zone, names matter. Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Northport, Sarasota. They are linked in this moment by rebalancing. The ingredients in that rebalancing are not just about supply. Florida has been grappling with intensifying natural disasters. Insurance premiums have soared in many places. Condo fees have risen. Each line item pushes the true monthly cost higher and has prompted some owners to consider leaving. Against that pressure, there are signs of moderation in pockets. Around Ormond Beach, for example, one broker pointed to declines in asking prices and to homeowners' insurance rates that, in that area, have also been falling. The experience is not uniform, the signal is mixed. But against a history of surges in premiums, any local relief is notable. The day-to-day reality on the ground in Southwest Florida reflects it. In Naples, the board tallied 564 transactions in January, up slightly from 561 a year earlier, a 0.5% lift carved out of a market where buyers hold more cards and take more time. Agents describe a recurring pattern from last year. A listing hits the market, attracts an offer early, the seller labels it a lowball and passes. Weeks stretch into months, price reductions stack up, and the home ultimately sells for less than that first offer. The advice has shifted. Starting high and planning to come down is less a strategy and more a way to chase a moving ceiling downward. Even amid softening, ownership rates paint a longer story. In Cape Coral, home ownership stood at 77.23% in 2024. A decade earlier, in 2014, it was 69.4%. That climb, more than 7 percentage points, puts Cape Coral among the strongest growers in the country for cities of its size. Zoom out to Lee County and the cadence changes. Home ownership there measured 78.2% in 2023, then slipped to 76.8% in 2024. And zoom out further. Florida's statewide homeownership rank was 14th in 2006. By the end of 2200, it had fallen to 36th. The expansion of ownership in certain places sits against a backdrop of statewide affordability that remains a stretch for many. A single human moment can crystallize the shift better than a chart. In Daytona Beach, a broker associate described preparing to close a sale to a couple buying their first home, while also heading out the same afternoon to show a pre-foreclosure property. That juxtaposition, new buyers entering and distressed inventory appearing, is the Florida market right now in one day's schedule. It is cautious and opportunistic at the same time. It is buyers moved by a 5.98% rate and sellers testing the line between aspiration and reality. South Florida offers another vantage. In West Palm Beach, agents talk about a more honest market, one where pricing strategies matter more than sizzle, and where the first 2 weeks on market are more important than the next 2 months. If a home is priced and presented correctly, staged, photographed, even filmed by drone with targeted digital ads, it can still draw immediate attention. If it misses the mark, it can vanish in feeds and sit. The emphasis in those first 14 days is tactical. The wrong price in that window is not just a delay, it can be a missed opportunity that drags net proceeds lower as weeks tick by. Zoom northwest, and the Panhandle is running a different play. The Watersound area has been swelling with demand from both residents and visitors. One of the region's major real estate and hospitality players closed $22,000, with real estate revenue up 64%, climbing to $234.20. The average sales price per home site landed at $137,000, backed by a gross margin of 51%. Hospitality revenue hit a record $215.40 million. Membership revenue for the local club rose 13%. Flights now link Northwest Florida Beach's International Airport directly to New York City's LaGuardia, opening a corridor between one of the largest metro areas in the country and the Gulf. In that corridor, second home interest, travel demand, and real estate transactions braid together. Nearly half, 47%, of the company's capital expenditures in 2005 were funneled into growth projects, an explicit bet on future demand. This divergence, the Panhandle growing off tourism and master-planned development, Southwest Florida unwinding pandemic froth, can look contradictory. It isn't. It's the same state, refracted through different cost structures, product mixes, and exposure to risk. It is also the same rate story playing out across different backdrops. When the 30-year rate eased from 7.04% in mid-July to 6.15% at the end of last year, and then slid under 6 to 5.98% in late February, the statewide reaction was clear. January closed and pending sales were the strongest seen for a January since 2200, for both single-family homes and condos. It was the fifth consecutive month with year-over-year increases in closed sales. Stability, the sense that the next week's rate would rhyme with this week's, was the engine. But rates alone cannot carry all of Florida's contradictions. The cost stack of homeownership here includes property taxes and homeowners insurance that live in the monthly payment just as surely as principal and interest. Professionals working with first-time buyers keep bringing the conversation back to this full picture. A pre-approval amount is not a destiny. The right number is the one that leaves room to breathe next year if taxes adjust or if a policy renews higher. In a state where some owners have absorbed spiking premiums and others now point to relief in specific locales, prudence looks like winning slower. Sellers are adjusting as well. With 47% more sellers than buyers nationally at the end of last year, and Florida singled out as facing particular stress from disasters, premiums, and fees, pricing strategically from the start has shifted from slogan to necessity. In Cape Coral and Northport, narratives of sharp appreciation followed by a wave of new product entering the market are meeting buyers who feel like negotiators again. The result is softness. The same pattern touches Fort Myers and Sarasota: more listings, incentives resurfacing, and a sanity check on list prices that feels unfamiliar after the frenzy of 2020 to 2022. And yet, softening can open doors. A dismal outlook for parts of Southwest Florida, paradoxically, can expand opportunities for those priced out in 2021. The path back to affordability is not quick. Florida's shift from 14th to 36th in home ownership rank over 2 decades underlines that. But in micro, more inventory and a slightly lower monthly payment have already squeezed a few more closings through. Naples' 564 January transactions, nudging up from 561, are not a tidal wave, but they are a directional arrow. In January's statewide data, a 1.2% year-over-year dip in the median sale price signals the same thing: a market willing to compromise. Look closely at segments. In the $300,000 to $399,999 range, the 3.3% lift in closings points to move-up buyers calibrating. In the $200,000 to $299,999 range, the 19.1% jump in closings carries more weight than a dozen anecdotes. It's a proxy for first-time entrants finding their footing. Those buyers compete with fewer cash offers. They can be dislodged by a single 30 basis point rate jump. But when the line breaks beneath 6, they respond. Their participation is not a small matter. It is what makes ladders work. Southward in Broward County and northward to Pensacola Beach, professionals speak a similar reality in different accents. Ultra-low 2 to 4% mortgages from 2020 and 2021 are not coming back. Some industry voices feel confident the rate will not stay below 6 for long. That skepticism creates urgency without mania. Buyers watching 5.98% in late February know the window may narrow. Sellers absorbing the same signal realize that holding out for last summer's comps may be a strategy that grows stale. On the Gulf, the Panhandle's economic engine is tangible in bodies and bookings. Hospitality revenue of $215.40 million in 2,205 is not a soft stat. Those are filled rooms, tea times, dinners, beach chairs. The 13% lift in club membership revenue in Watersound is not just a luxury trend. It is a standing order for activities, lessons, and community that anchors people to a place. The average home site price of $137,000 in that ecosystem slots not just into profit margins, but into household budgets of buyers who want to be part of something that feels both new and enduring. The new nonstop from Northwest Florida Beach's International Airport to LaGuardia isn't merely a convenience, it is a pipe delivering weekenders and future residents with a continuous hum. Contrast that with a condo owner in Fort Myers facing a budget notification that monthly fees have been revised upward, or a homeowner in Sarasota reading a policy renewal with a higher premium. These are the ripples that influence list prices, that take some would-be sellers off the field, that surprise some would-be buyers into reevaluating. When agents in West Palm Beach craft pricing strategies, they are not just comparing sale comps, they are reading absorption rates and buyer behavior, then designing execution plans for those first 2 weeks, staging cinematography from a drone, ad placements on platforms that tilt algorithms in their direction. For one award-winning team in West Palm, it is a 20-step playbook, fine-tuned over years, that aims to convert those earliest days into offers. That team's track record, about 120 homes sold each year and more than 300 five-star reviews, speaks to what disciplined marketing can accomplish even in a complex market. In the macro, it is fair to say the Sun Belt, and Southwest Florida in particular, has been the epicenter of housing market weakness recently. 4 area metros were counted among the top 5 in the nation for the biggest year-over-year price drops. The why is not exotic. Extreme price gains pulled forward, then buyer urgency uncoiled, then inventory improved. Add in the stochastic shock of storms and the reactive climb in insurance and fees, and the math comes out where you'd expect. At the same time, statewide January closed sales were the strongest for that month since 2000, and pending sales lifted 15.2% year over year. Weakness and resilience coexist because Florida is not one market. It is a map of microclimates. Consider Cape Coral again. In 22.4, a homeownership rate of 77.23% stands as a badge, 8th for growth among similarly sized cities over a decade, more than 7 percentage points above its 2014 level. Now pair that with forecasted annual price declines that could lead the nation and the reality that Lee County's homeownership rate cooled from 78.2% in 2003 to 76.8% in 2000. That tension between long-run ownership gains and short-run price pressure sets the stage for the next moves. For some households, it will be the opening they needed. For others, it will be a prompt to hold and wait. Market participants are responding. In Pensacola Beach, the board's 493 pending contracts on February 27th versus 220 a year earlier signal lenders busy again and appraisers with full calendars. In Daytona Beach, first-time buyers sat at closing tables in February who would not have qualified at 7.76% in November 2023. In Broward County, conversations have shifted to the new normal, with rate predictability and small improvements translating into real savings and more manageable monthly payments. In Naples, clubhouses buzz with talk of renewed showings after a slow stretch from November through January. In Ormond Beach, one broker could point to the perfect trifecta: falling mortgage rates, softening homeowners insurance in his area, and listing prices trimming lower, making February the busiest in 3 years. This is how a thaw feels. Not all at once, not everywhere, but in steps that can be counted, from 15,384 January single-family closings a year ago to 16,298 now, from 21,411 pending contracts then to 24,666 now, from a statewide median of $410,000 to $405,000. It feels like offers written on a Wednesday afternoon that 3 months ago would have waited until Saturday. It feels like a seller in Sarasota picking a first-day price $10,000 lower than the neighbor's January ask after seeing that the neighbor took 2 reductions and 6 weeks to sell. The path ahead is not a victory lap. There are tripwires. One is the rate itself. A local leader in the Panhandle voiced confidence that it will not stay below 6. If the average 30-year floats back above that line, the roughly $460 monthly payment cushion in our earlier example compresses. First-time buyers in the $200,000 to $299,000, $999,000, $300,000 to $399,000, $999 brackets feel that immediately. Another tripwire is inventory. If the end-of-year dynamic, 47% more sellers than buyers, persists deep into spring, and if the pipeline of new product continues to come online in places like Northport and Fort Myers, sellers will continue to face downward pressure on price and a necessity for incentives. There are also catalysts. The nonstop ECP to LGA route stands larger than a single flight. It represents a frictionless connection between wealth and want, a demand line drawn across a map that deposits buyers into the Panhandle's lifestyle. A company committing 47% of its annual capital expenditures to growth, on the back of $234.20 million in real estate revenue and a $215.40 hospitality haul, is a conviction trade. In West Palm Beach, an influx of businesses and steady population growth is not just a headline, it is a weekly pattern of relocations and office openings that underwrites demand for housing across price points. Even within the crucible of Southwest Florida, not all is strain. Naples demonstrated that a modest uptick in transactions is possible, even amid a broader reset. Strategic pricing, meeting the market instead of chasing a memory, unlocks liquidity. Buyers, given more time and less competition, can negotiate repairs, closing credits, and price adjustments that would have been unthinkable at 2.65%. Sellers, equipped with data and a clear read of absorption, can design those crucial 14 days to capture attention and convert it. So what comes next? A base case looks like this: a steadier Florida market through the next few months, with rates hovering in a manageable band and buyers steadily re-engaging, particularly in the $200,000 to $399,999 ranges, where January saw 7,056 combined closings. Transaction volume continues to feel better than the troughs of late last year. Statewide prices, which eased 1.2% year over year in January to a $405,000 median, remain under gentle pressure where inventory is abundant and costs outside principal and interest remain elevated. Southwest Florida continues to do the hard work of rebasing after a run-up, with Lee County and Sarasota watching their numbers closely, while the Panhandle leans into a tourism-driven flywheel backed by new connectivity and capital investment. In places like Broward County and West Palm Beach, predictability remains the magic word. Predictable rates, predictable days on market, predictable negotiations. Two watch items stand out. First, the rate path. If the 30-year can hold in the high fives to low sixes, the confidence underpinning January's 15.2% jump in pending sales statewide has room to extend. A reversal back above 6.5 or worse towards 7 would test that confidence quickly, especially for first-time buyers whose payments are finely tuned to every tenth of a point. Second, Southwest Florida's price trajectory. A projected 10.2% annual drop in Lee County and an 8.9% slide in the Sarasota Metro set expectations. Watch whether inventory growth and buyer caution continue to reinforce that path, or whether incremental improvements in insurance costs in certain pockets, tighter pricing from sellers, and steadier rates soften the descent. The way those two strands braid will write the next chapter. Between now and then, remember the basics embedded in Florida's current crosswinds. Pricing decisions in the first 2 weeks can matter more than the next 2 months. A policy renewal can turn a pre-approval into a pause. A 5.98% rate does not promise a bargain, but it can turn a no into a yes. The market is not one Florida, it is Naples and North Port, Cape Coral and Fort Myers, West Palm Beach and Broward County, Pensacola Beach and Watersound. It is people stepping into first homes and others stepping away from the coast. It is a late February pending tally in Escambia County that more than doubles the prior year, and a January statewide median that ticks down 1.2%. It is a company reporting a $234.20 million real estate year with a 51% margin on home sites and choosing to pour nearly half its capital spending into more. The buyers who win in this season will keep their eyes on monthly cost, not just purchase price. They will respect how quickly affordability can change if rates drift up even a half point. They will lean into segments where the data is strongest, like the 19.1% year-over-year surge in the $200,000 to $299,999 closings, while understanding that credits, repairs, and negotiation are breathing again. The sellers who win will treat those first 14 days as sacred, meet the market with discipline, and prefer a solid early offer over a long, expensive chase. In Florida, in 22.6, the sound you hear is not just a market waking up, it is a recalibration, rapid in some places, stubborn in others, but underway. The line dipped under 6. Offers followed. Prices in certain metros are bending. In others, they are buoyed by tourists landing from LaGuardia and weekends stitched into memberships. Through it all, one principle holds: make decisions anchored in numbers you can carry. When the next storm season rolls in, when the next renewal comes due, when the next rate print hits the wire, the households that kept that discipline will still be standing in homes that fit. If this helped you see Florida's market more clearly, consider subscribing for the next deep dive.